Shalom, and welcome to the December 7th edition of Torah for Today. These are our amazing students, each of them a scholar in their own right, and we are going to share some Torah study today. We're going to begin with a blessing. So let's all share the blessing. Lasok b'divrei Torah. Here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lasok b'divrei Torah. Amen. All right. Tonight, by the way, starting Hanukkah. All right. So nice celebration. Everybody, do you have any questions about Hanukkah, by the way? I always like to, when we have holidays, to ask any questions. You can see I'm ready to celebrate myself. Any questions about lighting the Hanukkah? About right? Remember, we start lighting them from we start putting in from right to left, right? Like Hebrew style. We do the blessings first, and then we light them the newest night first. Tonight, you obviously have one candle, and you do Shechianu as well. And only the first time you light candles. If you forget to do it the first night and you only do it the second night, then you would do Shechianu, first time that you light the candles. Any question about Hanukkah? Anything about the story? Anything, George? A question?
Yeah, no, just a reminder that on Shabbos, right, you light the Hanukkah candles first, even if it's before, and then the Shabbos.
Correct. Right. Anytime you have any other candles to light, by the way, George, also, if you had a Yisker candle you were lighting, right, anything you're going to do, you do it before. Exactly. So thank you, George, for that reminder. Lauren?
We would just writing home, and they said the only time Hanukkah was mentioned in any of the Bibles was in the New Testament when Christ was going to celebrate Hanukkah. Otherwise, it's not mentioned.
It's mentioned in the book of Maccabees.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Correct.
And they were wrong.
So it is not in the Jewish Bible, that's for sure. And there's a whole discussion, some of you have studied with me, why the book of Maccabees was not included in the Jewish Bible. And the assumption is by most scholars is that the rabbis did not want to emphasize a military victory. And instead, by the way, Lauren, also the story of the miracle of the oil only appears in the Talmud. So if you study these, how many of you have studied about Hanukkah and in the book of Maccabees versus the Talmud? Not many. Wow. So the story, Steve, you have, right? And the story of the oil, the miracle of the oil, Lauren, is only found in the Talmud. And in the book of Maccabees is conspicuously absent. And so therefore it leads scholars to hypothesize that that was a rabbinic tradition only, and that the miracle of the oil really didn't take place.
Oh.
Right. So whenever I say that, by the way, Lauren, I always like, especially with younger families of young children, I always feel like the Grinch who stole Hanukkah. But there's strong belief, Lauren, to believe that was a rabbinic tale that helped to bring additional meaning to Hanukkah, and they did not want to emphasize the military victory of the rabbis. Yes, George.
I think wasn't the books of Maccabee written in Greek?
It's a great question whether that's the original language.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we also know, by the way, it's a great question. You could look that up, what the original language is. Also, Lauren, in the histories of Josephus, that there's no mention of the miracle of the oil either. So very interesting. And the 8 days, by the way, in the book of Maccabees, attributed to the 8 days of Sukkot, 7 days plus Shmini Atzeret. And Lauren, the theory is that when they rededicated the temple, the name Hanukkah means dedication. When they rededicated the temple, and they said we haven't been able to observe a holiday in the longest time. The last holiday that they missed was Sukkot and Simchat Torah. Shmini Atzeret, not Simchat Torah. And that they therefore observed the 8 days of the sacrifices and offer the sacrifices, by the way, of the Sukkot festival. Which, by the way, the Talmud, I've studied it before, just as an aside. you know the argument between Hillel and Shammai in the Talmud that you start with, right? You start with 1 or start with 8.
Yeah.
Right? Some of you know that, right?
Yeah.
One tradition, Shammai, Judy said that you start with 8 and then you decrease each night.
Yeah.
Hillel said you start with 1 and you increase. Now, the winning argument, which is a beautiful principle, and it's elegant in Hebrew, Ma'alin b'kodesh, you elevate like oleh, to raise up, you elevate kodesh, holiness, things of holiness, ve'ein moridin, and you never decrease them. Right? Isn't that a beautiful image, Judy? That like you only add, you can't diminish from sanctity, you can only add. So we add a candle each night. But for those of you who know that Talmud, Jack, did you study this section of Talmud? Yeah. So one of the reasons you remember that that Shammai gives for decreasing each night is actually, he mentions the sacrifices. Because on Sukkot, they start with more sacrifices and they decrease each day the number of sacrifices. And so that becomes tied into the reason. So Shammai clearly knows the connection to Sukkot. Any other questions or thoughts about Hanukkah? Anything you don't know? Anything you're not sure about? Going once, going twice, Stan.
Pardon me. You mentioned that should we really believe that the miracle of the oil took place, and you say, of course, the rabbis invented that. There's many of the holidays we can say, did we really take place, and what is? We look at what our traditions tell us about all the holidays. None of them really was, even what they're described in the Torah that they happened, but how they happened and what they did is what we invented, or somebody invented.
Yeah, well, they evolved, Stan. They have clearly the three major festivals, Sukkot, Shavuot, and Pesach, have origins of agricultural holidays, which of course. They tie in, they become historical events, they emphasize. I'm not sure there is a comparable part of where something is really just made up by the rabbis.
Well, how about Purim, the Esther story?
That may be, by the way, that's not by the rabbis. That's a book that was written, that whether it was actually historically correct or not.
Right.
Whether it really happened. So that could be, but again, the rabbis don't intentionally really come up with something. So, but I think your point is well put. I just wanted to give it a nuance there. Yes, Judy.
Didn't it become a much more important holiday with presents and everything because it corresponded to Christmas? And
absolutely, there's no question. By the way, Jewish communities traditionally outside of the United States did not give presents on Hanukkah. Jews in Iran did not give presents on Hanukkah. They gave them on. They got them for Purim because of by the way, Judy, this is a great example of influence of the outside culture, because in Iran, Nowruz, the Persian New Year, happens around the time of Purim. And so just like we have that, if the coincidence of them coming together, they gave presents. South Africa, by the way, traditionally families I know from 30, 40 years ago did not give presents. They're now there a little bit more, but correct. That's where the great impact happens in America. No question. Any other questions about Hanukkah? Anything else, Jack?
I just want to point, we've discussed this previously, the changing kind of attitudes towards Hanukkah, whether at the founding of Israel, it's this military victory, and that's really enhanced, and issues of religious freedom. And I just, I noticed that, I don't know, a day or two ago, that the Prime Minister of Israel was mentioning the Maccabees and Hanukkah for his own purposes, but again, to show this idea of a military victory. And it's an interesting holiday in that it, in addition to lighting the darkness, it also reflects the present day zeitgeist.
Yeah, I think that there is. Those of you who don't know, Israel, pre-Israel, really tried to redefine the image of the Jew. And Jack, you know that. They
Mhm.
were the Jews who came to Israel in the 1800s, early 1900s. Their goal was to redefine it. And which is why, by the way, in Israel, they didn't talk a lot about the Holocaust. Right? They didn't want Jews to focus on the Holocaust. They just wanted to focus on what does it mean to be fighters and to be survivors. And they didn't want any image that they could be let off like sheep. So they really were conflicted about how to handle the Holocaust. But Jack, that's a great point about redefining it and the role of Hanukkah of being able to fight for what's right and to fight to sanctify. And clearly with what's going on now in Gaza, there are those who are going to evoke that image for sure. So thank you for sharing. All right. If that's the case, by the way, it is important. I teach this often. Those of you who have heard me teach it, just to reemphasize, the word nes that we translate as miracle, nes gadol hayasham, does not mean miracle in its pure sense.
Standard.
It means a standard or a sign, right, George? Like you would carry something.
That's in Exodus, I believe, a lot of that, isn't it?
And what, sorry?
Is it in Exodus, a lot of...
It shows up,
thing.
yes, in Exodus. And the point here is that miracle, its origins, that etymology of this is a sign of God.
Okay.
Right? What does it mean that there's a sign of God? So it's not that it is a supernatural event outside the laws of nature. It just is that it's a sign that leads to God, to perceiving God's presence. So I mentioned that because today we're going to be looking at the concept of angels a little bit. All right. And what's the definition of an angel? And it tied in terms of, as I thought about today, about this idea of the nes and how we redefine what a miracle is. By the way, it's not mentioned, like when it talks about the plagues in Exodus, George, you probably noticed, it doesn't use the word nes at all. Otot umoftim, signs and wonders.
Okay.
So nes has never anywhere in the 5 books in the Torah represents the idea of a miracle. All right, let's go to then, what am I going to go to? Let's share, and hopefully I have the right document up. That is not the right document, but that is the right document. All right, this is a story about a man in the field. Some of you know this story. This is the narrative of Jacob and his 12 sons and one daughter, Dinah. We talked about her last time. And Joseph had his dreams of the sheaves that bow down to his sheaf and the stars that bow down to the sun and moon, and the sun and moon that bow down to him actually. And now this is the story when Joseph is sent out by his father to find the brothers. There's a famous story. Many of you, I think, will know this, but we're gonna some of you might have even studied this before about the encounter that Joseph has in his search for his brothers. So I'm going to set that up accordingly. And Anita, would you like to read? Is it large enough for you?
Sure. One time, when his brothers had gone to pasture their father's flock at Shechem, Israel said to Joseph, "Your brothers are pasturing at Shechem. Come, I will send you to them." He answered, "I am ready."
By the way, right, what do you think the Hebrew is of "I am ready"?
Hineni.
Hineni, right? Correct. Good. Keep going. Verse 14.
Okay. And he said to him, "Go and see how your brothers are and how the flocks are faring, and bring me back word." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron. When he reached Shechem, a man came upon him wandering in the fields. The man asked him, "What are you looking for?" He answered, "I am looking for my brothers. Could you tell me where they are pasturing?" The man said, "They have gone from here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph followed his brothers and found them at Dothan.
All right. So without what you know about this, because some of you have said this before, any comments or questions just about the text itself? Anything you want to note? Anything? Yeah, Steve.
A question about calling Jacob Israel. We seem to be very inconsistent in using what should I would given that his name was changed, we should be called it's Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. Why are we making this error?
Yeah.
All right. So this is interesting. His name is changed from Jacob to Israel, but throughout the rest of the Torah, it's not Israel all the time. It's also Jacob.
Mhm.
So it's used both ways.
Mhm.
Does anybody know where the expression Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov came from? The God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, that we use for the Amidah. Anybody know where that's from? George, do you know where that's used actually in the Torah or no?
No.
No? Okay, good. I'm glad.
Okay.
It comes from the burning bush, where God introduces, God's self to Moses and says, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov. I'm the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Now, what's beautiful about that, and most people, and Steve, here's where many people don't make this connection. I haven't taught this a lot in the past, but recently I rethought about it, is when people pray the Amidah, Steve, when you pray the Amidah, you don't make the connection between those words and the burning bush.
Right, correct. I don't.
And then what's happening is the Amidah is our most intimate moment with God, and we're actually reenacting the experience of the burning bush. Isn't that beautiful? Like, the idea is that that's how God defines God's self. And all of a sudden, we're like Moses standing at the burning bush, calling upon the God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. So, Steve, I can't tell you why, historically by the rabbis ended up keeping, Jacob rather than Israel in terms of the mention of the patriarchs. But it's a good question. A good question. Any other thoughts about this before we go to the commentaries and to obviously the question here is, who is this man, right? Oh, go ahead, Anita.
Obviously, Isaac didn't realize, I'm sorry,
Jacob
didn't realize that he was putting his son in danger by sending him
think that
out.
he didn't realize it. Yeah.
And he obviously did.
Right. And remember, Jacob contributes to this because he'd already given Joseph the coat of many colors.
Right.
And had clearly shown preferential treatment to Joseph. And we know why, right? The son of Rachel. And so, it clearly is an important part of the story. So keep that thought, Anita, as we keep going. Mort.
I get the sense that because of this surreptitious meeting with this stranger, that God is putting his plan in motion.
So is this part of God's plan that the narrative play out this way? That's the right question, Mort. I like that, because that's the question: is who is this? This man. All right, let's keep going then. Hold on. The case for angels, right? So this is going to be a general introduction. Actually, do I want to do that yet or not? Let's do this. I created a separate study guide from this one. Sorry to make it if you're getting dizzy here. About, right? This is the text that we just read. And let's just go through the sources, and then we'll go to the other sheets to put it all together. All right, Bruce, how would you like to do some Rashi? Well, you have to mute.
Sure.
There you
Yeah. Unmute the
You're
Rashi.
on. You're good.
This was the angel Gabriel, Genesis Rabbah 84:14, as it is said. Daniel 9:21, and the man Gabriel, Midrash
Tanchuma.
Tanchuma Vayashev 2:3.
Right. So he's making a case where this is not only is it just an angel, Rashi suggests, but he knows which angel it is. It's Gabriel. All right. And so the man here, Bruce, for him, this is for Rashi, this is not just a man, it is the angel Gabriel. And these are the proof texts that he gives from Bible, right? Beyond the Torah, even Daniel. All right, let's go Ibn Ezra, who's a later commentator than Rashi.
And a certain man found him, according to the plain meaning of the text, a passerby found him.
So Ibn Ezra, Bruce is saying, not an angel, just a passerby who happened to see him.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Ramban Nachmanides, go ahead.
And a man found him, and behold, he was straying in the field. The verse is stating that Joseph was straying from the road, not knowing where to go, and he entered a field since he was looking for them in a place of pasture. Scripture mentions this at length in order to relate that many events befall him which could properly have caused him to return, but he endured everything patiently for the honor of his Father. It also informs us that the divine decree is true and man's industry is worthless. The Holy One, blessed be he, sent him a guide without his knowledge in order to bring him into their hands. It is this that our rabbis intend when they said that these men were angels, for these events did not occur without purpose, but rather to inform us that it is the counsel of the eternal that shall stand.
All right. So who is this by the way, Bruce, as you read, the reason God sent him a guide, because he saw he was really trying hard to find the brothers. It wasn't he was just wandering and leisurely and lost his way. He really was trying. So imagine like God's watching in this image, right?
Right.
You know, Linda, I'm not sure if you'd like this or not. God's kind of watching and like, oh, my boy, he's trying so hard. Oh, you know, he's like, oh my God, he's lost again, right? Let me send him somebody that should help him find the right way. So kind of that image. But Nancy, I'll get to you in a second, and Judy. But according to this, is it an angel or a human, according to Nachmanides?
I'd say an angel.
Because?
It says the divine decree is true without his knowledge.
All right. These men, rabbis intended when they said these men were angels.
Okay.
Right? This is our rabbis when they said that men are angels. But what does it mean men were angels? Are they angel? Are they redefining what an angel is? It's a little confusing, right, Bruce? It's not so clear.
Very. Yes, very
okay.
confusing.
Good. So it's vague. All right, let's go. Who had their hand up that I said first? And then Judy, it was, Nancy. Yes, please.
No, that's what I was going to say. All of a sudden, there's more than one angel.
So in general, correct. In general, there are, in fact, hold on. Talk amongst yourselves 1 minute, because I printed something out that I forgot to bring here. I can find it. It's okay. But there are other mentions of angels. But we'll get to that in a moment. Let's go one more. Oh, wait, Judy, you had a question. Judy, go.
I have a problem with a man's industry is worthless. And what exactly, why is that there? I mean, is it just to show that God is dictating everything, or that we're not in control, or?
Well, that's a great question. Anybody want to try and tackle that to understand it? Any?
Yeah.
George, want to take a shot?
Yeah, well, was it Akiva? Everything is ordained. You know, you have free will, but you know, you can do whatever, but it's known what's going to happen. You know, and again, I have a problem. You know, why study for a test if you know if it's known if you're going to pass or not? Why, you know, why not go to the beach? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, look, this whole notion of free will is really important, Judy, in Jewish tradition. Pirkei Avot, I think, George, you just quoted this, all is ordained. All is preordained except free will.
Yeah.
Try and figure that one out.
Yeah.
So Judy, they're really trying to understand it.
Yeah.
I think here, that as I understand this, is that God's will has precedence in the machinations of the human being, even, right? Like, ultimately, it's God's will that will prevail. So I don't see it. They translate it as worthless, but I'm not sure even if that's a good translation from the Hebrew. I'd have to look at it. It may lead to nothing, but I think here the emphasis is on God's decree. All right. So I love your challenge to it, by the way. Please. I mean, I really like that a lot. Judy, do you want to continue reading Da'at Kanim, who's a much later commentator?
Where a man found him.
Yep.
A man found him while he was lost in the field. This, the 3 letters in the word, whatever,
Ta'ah.
is where the angel Gabriel gave Joseph a hint of 3 exiles the Jewish people would endure. 400 years of exile in Egypt, 70 years of exile in Babylon. What's 5 till the end of the exile, commonly known as the Roman exile, till the coming of the Messiah. The author attributes this to his father of blessed memory, Ed.
Right. The author Da'at Kanim said this is a tradition I got from my father.
Okay.
Right. The ED, by the way, notes is
I
always.
thought his father's name was Ed.
Yeah, his father's name is not Ed. It means editor. So the editor of this, the translation has added that commentary.
Got it. He adds that he heard something along the same lines in the name of Rabbi. What?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's not. This isn't relevant. But he's trying to figure out what is, if God sent him, right? If God sent this messenger, is that all his mission was just to tell him where his brothers were? Doesn't seem like much of a mission, unless you say that God wants to ensure that, right, this is going to happen. So he has a more of a revelation, and that he actually revealed to Joseph 3 exiles that the Jewish people would endure. So it's, again, a midrash to try and understand it. That's all. Like, what was the encounter?
Who would even want to know that?
What? Sorry, Judy?
Who would even want to know that these exiles?
Oh, yeah. You know what? It's remember, by the way, Judy, there is what we call the story of the Brit Ben HaBetarim, the covenant of the pieces, where God tells Avram, right, before he's Abraham even, that his people, right, who will be a great and mighty nation, as numerous as stars in heaven, will be slaves in a foreign land, in Egypt. Like, from the very beginning, who would want to know? But it's interesting that the rabbis, and the Torah certainly indicates that somehow they were given that information. Why is a good question. Any questions before on this commentary or anything? All right, because now we'll go to close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes, George. Ask everybody else close your eyes as I scroll up.
Okay, what's the 5 years? Hey, okay, the Roman exile. Okay, we're still there allegedly. I get the meaning the first 2, but what is?
The last one. It's a great question. I tried looking it up.
Yeah.
It was in terms of the Mashiach, that it would take time.
Yeah.
And I don't remember now, as I looked it up, what that one was. Okay. I'll be honest, I just don't remember it because it is confusing.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's go to Case for Angels. All right. Let's Lauren, would you like to read?
Sure. Rashi, a medieval French commentator from the 11th century, tells us this man is the angel Gabriel. And this angel Gabriel is said to have appeared to Daniel in a vision. providing him with the understanding of God's design for him. Daniel 9:21. Furthermore, Gabriel is called there a man, Hebrew-ish, reinforcing Rashi's interpretation that unidentified man, also called Ish.
Right, ish, like it's a strong
ish,
E on that.
ish,
Right,
ish.
ish means man. And that was part that was a little bit confusing when he quoted Gabriel. I think, Bruce, you read that part about from Daniel, rather. He's called Ish and Gabriel. And so now he's, so that Ish in the Torah is Gabriel. So that was the correct he's able to make. Ish. Lauren,
that should be
reading
Ish.
that.
But okay. Of Joseph's story and the man angel Gabriel are one and the same. In support of this interpretation are the facts that the man seems to know Joseph and coincidentally overheard the answers to the question Joseph asked.
All right. So hold on. So that is like a notion trying to understand that Gabriel, right, is there. He's an angel. And the support is that he seems to know Joseph, doesn't ask who he is, what he's doing. He just says, what are you doing? And as if he knows him already. You just don't walk up to a stranger and ask, what are you doing usually? So the Hebrew word for angel is malach.
Malach.
Okay.
Malach.
So where else do angels appear in the Torah? Anybody else know where they appear?
Abraham.
Give me one. Just throw out one, Linda.
To tell Abraham and Sarah that they were going to have a baby.
Okay, good. All right, who has another one?
The Akedah.
The binding of Isaac. At what part, Jack, of the binding of Isaac?
Rowan is about to kill him.
Good, when he's about to kill him. Good.
Isn't there an angel of death?
Malach HaMavet, good, is in Exodus. Good. So we have the angel of death. What else? I didn't even put that on my list, but that's a good one. Eileen, you have to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Didn't the angel wrestle with Jacob?
So that becomes, we're uncertain, but there's a suggestion that it is. He's not called an angel.
You don't give him a name.
He held him, he blesses him, which we assume is part of the angel, and he changes his name. But I don't think, as I recall, that malach, specifically angel, is used there. All right, Stan?
At the time of creation, God is supposedly talking to, quote, angels, or is that all midrash?
So great. Naaseh, right? Naaseh dam b'tzelmenu, that we will make the man in our image. That is midrash, that God is talking to the angels. Correct. So I compiled a short. I don't know whether I got them all or not. This is what I printed out, but then I realized I had it here. Hagar runs away and the angel appears to her.
Yeah.
Right, when Sarah mistreated her and says, return to your mistress, you'll bear a son Ishmael. All right, that's one. Angels come to Lot. All right, in Sodom. Angel calls, Jack, you got this one, Abraham not to sacrifice Isaac. Abraham tells Eliezer that God will send an angel to help him. So the angel's not where there, but the notion of angels is evoked. Jacob in the dream, by the way. Angel appears in the flame of the burning bush. Also, it's used there. Exodus 14, angel who went before the Israelites and then moved to the rear of the traveling Israelites. And then God promises to send an angel to lead them when they enter the land. And finally, Bil'am. Remember the story with the donkey, that is actually an angel that's there blocking the way. Any questions or comments about the appearance of these angels? Yes, Linda, then Eileen.
I remember being told when I was younger that Jews don't believe in angels. That's a Christian thing. And yet there's so many instances of angels in scriptures, Jewish scriptures.
It's a perfect example of where, now, by the way, where does this come from that we don't believe in angels or the devil, that we don't believe in a soul, that we don't believe in life after death?
Your life, yeah.
Right? Is that what, like, many of you heard, like, those distinctions?
Just some of it.
Yeah. So here's my theory. And this could be completely wrong. So those of you who are watching on this recording at some future date, I hereby acknowledge that there is no scholarly evidence to what I'm about to suggest. But here I'm going to give it to you anyway. I think that this was an American Jewish tradition that was trying to create distinctions between the Jews and the American Christian culture, and to explain why we're different and how we're different. And by the way, largely by non-religious Jews.
Yeah.
Because religious Jews, right, George, would know that we believe in angels and we have the devil.
Yeah, Rabbi?
Yes,
I think
George.
both of them are mentioned in the Torah coming up.
Yeah, no. They're in the text, George, but the question is, Linda acknowledges a very common thread within American Jewish traditions about what we don't believe in.
Yeah.
So that's my theory, Linda, is that's where it became, what is the difference between us Jews and the Christians in America? Oh, there's big differences. And here's how they believe in this and we don't. They believe in it and we don't. So
do we still believe that angels are around, that they're with God now?
So what is an angel? So here's what I will tell you. The rabbis, certainly in the Middle Ages, don't talk about angels. Mm-hmm. They really, and the devil, frankly. Right? Satan is mentioned, by the way, as someone who tempts, people and who challenges them. But in the Middle Ages, the commentaries wanted nothing to do with them. So, Linda, they don't mention them at all. They just leave them by the wayside. But now we're going to get into the text, the study material, and now it's going to, right? We're going to get back to this and explain a little bit more. Here now is Ramban. And we read Ramban, but here's kind of just trying to articulate him. Ramban, a medieval Spanish scholar from the 12th century, teaches that an angel is not a special kind of creature, but merely a human being who carries out God's will on earth without even knowing it. Remember, Bruce, you read that section by Ramban. I said, which way is it? It's a little unclear, right? But they're carrying out God's will, and they may not even know it, which is itself an interesting caveat in all this. All right, but hold that. Now we get the guide for the perplexed Maimonides, who you can imagine has, I love, and, more and more, I hope you all realize how much I really just love Rambam and his ideas. Steve, why don't you read some Maimonides for us?
As for the existence of angels, there is no necessity to cite any proof from Scripture, where the fact is frequently mentioned.
Right. So he says, it's there. Right. It's clearly in our text, the fact that they're angels. Go ahead.
Right. Number 2, we have already stated above that the angels are incorporeal. This agrees with the opinion of Aristotle. There is only this difference in the names employed. He uses the term intelligences, and we say instead angels. But angel means messenger. Hence, everyone that is entrusted with a certain mission is an angel.
Steve, isn't that a radical difference?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. He's not negating that there are angels because it's there. You can't argue, Linda, and say, well, they don't exist. So he's going to have to reinterpret them. It's amazing, right? Rambam, Maimonides, who was a philosopher, knew Greek philosophy. It was not a forbidden territory at all, right? And he quotes a lot in terms of Greek philosophy, and just says, but the common intelligences, and that's angels, really. All right, keep going, and then we'll open this for questions about Maimonides or comment.
Another passage in Bereshit Rabbah runs thus: before the angels have accomplished their task, they are called human. When they have accomplished it, they are angels.
Ah, isn't that interesting? That's how. So, Jack, think about when they come to Abraham. There are men, anashim, that came towards him, and afterwards are acknowledged as angels. So when they accomplish their goal, that's when they're recognized, because what they have a purpose. The angels, like, that's the important part, Steve. They're sent with a mission, with a purpose. Jack, you want to ask now, or you want to wait till the end? What's your preface?
We can wait till the end. That's fine.
Okay. All right, Steve, keep going.
In his classic work on Kabbalah, The 13-Petaled Rose, Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz writes that human behavior can create angels. In a counterpart to the way biblical angels bear messages from the divine realm down to humanity, the angels created by human actions carry the energies of humankind upwards into the higher spiritual realms.
By the way, Adin Steinsaltz, he passed away, right? I think he passed away. Who wrote, actually, there's something called the Steinsaltz Talmud, in which he wrote in Hebrew, right? The Talmud's in Aramaic. He wrote in Hebrew a translation that's considered like the translation of the Talmud. And you can study the Steinsaltz Talmud. It was the only one published, the only Talmud published by as I recall now, by a major publishing house in the United States. I forget who published it, but he also, in addition to Talmud, was a great philosopher. And look how he changes. What's the difference in Adin Steinsaltz's perception or articulation of angels from Maimonides or from Ramban?
Human behavior can create angels. That's what he
correct said. And the other ones, they're agents of God, whether they know it or not. Right, Steve? In this one, that we can actually transform ourselves through our agency to become angels.
So I have a chance, huh, Rabbi?
You do. But isn't that a beautiful notion? We can take on a mission and become angels. All right, let's keep going.
Angels are singular and unchanging in their essences, Steinsaltz writes, and can be either good or evil, demons. The latter, the product of human beings doing the opposite of a mitzvah, harboring evil thoughts or committing acts of wickedness. Like good angels, evil angels also act in a dual fashion, bringing evil from the spiritual world to the material world by inspiring sin or causing suffering and punishment, while also receiving energy from the misdeeds of human beings. To be sure, were the world to root out all evil completely, then, as a matter of course, the subversive angels would disappear, since they exist as permanent parasites living on man, Steinsaltz writes. But as long as man chooses evil, he supports and nurtures whole worlds and mansions of evil, all of them drawing upon the same human sickness of soul.
Right. This is from the source from the Jewish Virtual Library. So in terms of trying to explain Adin Steinsaltz. Jack, what's your question or comment now?
If the idea of the Ish is that he is an angel because he directs Joseph to the rest of the story. And, of course, everything happens. And if Joseph can't find the brothers, none of the rest of the story happens. I'm struck, however, by, that's kind of one cause. But then the more proximate cause, it seems to me, is really what the brothers do in selling Joseph to the Midianites or whoever they come.
The Ishmaelites and Midianites. There's a whole section about who really they were sold to or who might have taken them out.
Anyway, the slave traders and going to Egypt. And so I wonder, are the traders themselves who happen to be going by, are they angels? Because, and are the brothers demons or angels? Because, they could have killed Joseph, but they didn't. Right. They didn't want to do that. They threw him in the pit. Then they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't leave him in the pit. And then there's these traders coming by and they say, well, we'll just get rid of him and send him that way. And aren't they kind of the the same mechanism as, I mean, the thing about the Ish, it's like it comes from nowhere, but so do the traders. And like, how do we differentiate between those angels?
Jack, as always, you ask very deep and perplexing questions. Because, by the way, very often, right, perpetrators of evil will say that I'm the messenger of God, bringing judgment. Nebuchadnezzar, right, is seen as, when he conquers the northern kingdoms, as being an agent of God. So, Jack, right, can you say when you commit a bad act, can you actually say that you're doing it, right, in the name of God, and that you're an angel of goodness?
Well, but my point here is that I think it's Ruvain who says, don't lay a hand on him when the brothers want to kill him. And he says, no, don't lay a hand on him. And this way we can just send the traders. But if the traders aren't there, they can't do that.
Correct. So I want to leave that as an open question. We'll see whether we can get to the end. But I do remember when what does Joseph say to his brothers when they finally reunite in Israel, to reassure them that he doesn't harbor any ill will towards them? Do you remember what he says to them? He says, don't worry, right? It's God who sent me ahead of you. Right, Robert, does that sound familiar?
Yes. It was God's will in the first place, so don't feel bad about it.
Right. So somehow, Jack, he does see that it was God's will that he be sold into slavery to be ahead of them. But who do we want? What I hear your question as, you may not intend it that way, is who are we willing to call an angel and who should be the devil? Right? Because you want to think that traders of human cargo, you don't want to call them an angel. Right? Like, how can we? So that's where I hear your question. So let's hold on to that for a moment.
Well, it's also whether they're an angel or devil. Are they also an instrument of God? Because if they don't show up, none of this happens.
Correct. So I'm saying if they're instruments of God, maybe you're pushing me to rethink it. And I want to redefine them. Are they angels or, right, in that technical agents of God? Are they angels or devils? Because they also said, according to one, that could be like, devils can be negative. So that's why I'm not sure. I have to and we'll see where we get. Stan, please.
There's one dimension that is so appropriate that we are having this conversation about angels. We have the local angel baseball team. And we're all Angelinos. I mean, we're all.
I appreciate that. That is great. The City of Angels. And by the way, their original name was
Ciudad de Los Angeles or something.
I believe the original name of the angels were the Seraphs.
Oh, Seraphs.
Yeah.
I believe. I could be wrong, but something tells me.
One kind of angel.
Sorry?
I thought the seraph was one kind of angel.
But I believe that was the name of the angels, the team, before they were the angels. I believe they were the seraph. I could be wrong. Somebody will have to look that out. Go, Mort.
To say slave traders were immoral at that time, they were just doing what business was as usual. There was nothing immoral about slavery. At the time these slave traders passed by, there's no aspersions of the negative to feel negative about that. That was just a form of business that existed at that time, and they could very well have been angels of God. There's no reason to think of them as in any negative sense.
Correct. No,
from an historical perspective.
Correct. You're absolutely correct. But these rabbis and Rambam early on is trying to figure out what is, they want to be consistent. It's what I think someone asked, maybe Lauren or someone at the very beginning. Do we have angels today? What is that whole idea about, Mort? They're trying to understand in a continuous way. Were there angels? What were those angels and are still angels? And that's how they're trying to answer the question. Let's go on and read some of these sections here in terms of understanding. Kathleen, you haven't read. Would you like to read Kol HaNeshama from the Reconstruction of Siddur?
Jewish tradition leaves ample room for each generation to understand angels as it will, whether as natural forces or as revealing moments in our lives, the divine in people that we meet, or manifestations of the goodness in our world or in the inner workings of the human heart.
Okay. We don't have a lot of time. I'm going to skip ahead to the end here. No, we'll do Larry Kushner, who I love. All right, go ahead. Read Rabbi Lawrence Kushner.
Have you ever had the sense that you had strayed from a path, that you were lost? How did you find your way back?
Oh no, I'm sorry. He was above that. My apologies. The case for us. This is Larry Kushner. Each lifetime.
Each lifetime is the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. For some, there are more pieces. For others, the puzzle is more difficult to assemble. Some seem to be born with nearly a completed puzzle, and so it goes. Souls going this way and that, trying to assemble the myriad parts. But know this, no one has within themselves all the pieces to their puzzle. Like before the days when they used to seal jigsaw puzzles in cellophane, ensuring that all the pieces were there. Everyone carries with them at least one and probably many pieces to someone else's puzzle. Sometimes they know it, sometimes they don't. And when you present your piece, which is worthless to you, to another, whether you know it or not, and whether they know it or not, you're a messenger from the Most High.
Isn't that beautiful? I love that description by Larry Kushner about what is a messenger. And again, this is what they're trying to figure out. What were angels? What are they? And do we still have them today? And there's this attempt to want to keep that notion of angels and define it in the way that they feel is the most productive, loving, and by the way, partnership with God. Any questions? Hold on. Question? Yeah, Rob.
In the prayer that we say before we take the Torah out of the ark, we refer to God. We say Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed. So we refer to God as an angel in that.
Yeah, it's spelled. It sounds similar, and it gets confusing. The Malach does not have an aleph in it, and it's related to the Shorish Cherul of Melech. So God Malach, like did rule, Melech does rule, Yimloch will rule. So that's where it comes from. Other questions. I'm trying to look now to play you a song about the angels, the Shem, because we do. There's actually a song written by Karabach, Shlomo Karabach. And I want to see whether I can find it. I did find it yesterday, but I forgot to leave it open. Let me see. Hold on.
There's one exotic rice hack that anyone can use to dissolve their belly fat on command.
There you go.
That's important. Let's listen to that.
Yeah. Okay, so hold on. You never know what advertisements they're going to put in there beforehand. The name of the Lord. Let me see if this is it, and if so, I'll share it with you. Yeah, I think this is it. Hold on. It's not the original Shlomo Karabach, but it actually does have. Let me see if I can do this. Yeah, hold on 1 second. With apologies. All right, this one. All right, let's see if I got the right one. Usually sung before Shabbat or before going to sleep, by the way. Does it have it or no? Right, so it's invoking the names of the All right, I'm gonna try one more. Let me see if I can find Karlbach version of it, just so you can hear it. It's a beautiful version that he has. Come on, where's the word?
This song is dedicated to my second daughter, my heart and my pride, Nadara.
Where are the words?
I may be calling from a smiley gavadier. From a phone,
On my right is Michael, on my left is Gabriel, in front of me is Uriel, and behind me is Raphael. And all around me, all around surrounding me is the Shekhinah of God. All right, so you get the feel. It's a beautiful, this idea of angels I wanted you to hear is it's part of a prayer for protection, right? That Michael is on my right hand, Gabriel is on my left, Uriel is in front of me. Uriel, by the way, meaning the light of God. So it makes sense that it would lead the way. Raphael, who brings healing, by the way. Gabriel, by the way, is strength. Like me who's a giver, who has strength. And so there's the four angels that surround us and that guard us all the time. Isn't that interesting? This idea that somehow we have these angels around us, and Shlomo Karlbach, took it and rewrote it as well. Any question about the concept of angels at this point? Jack, we didn't answer your question. I don't know. I've got to think about that. Can you really be an agent of God, right? Do we want to call those who trade in human lives, to call them angels? But clearly, without this man in the story, it doesn't happen. And the rabbis, Jack, trying to understand what role it played out, God, and understanding Joseph lying to his brothers, right? God has sent me. I think that this is the moment they look at, right? This is the pinnacle moment. And by the way, so here's what I would say for me, right? To be in the right place at the right moment, to be a malach. And I believe that all of us are in those positions at a certain time, in a certain place, where we can be angels and emissaries and do the right thing and make a difference in that moment. And I really believe that. And for me, I think that is the most important part of what the rabbis want to see in the angels, as people who are doing God's will and making a difference in the world. And that, for me, and I think we all have that potential. Any final thoughts or questions? No, y'all good with being angels? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, wishing you all a wonderful first night of Hanukkah tonight. Hopefully to see you around. And we have a Hanukkah program coming up at HAMAKOM, and so there's registration. There's an email going out today, by the way, about it. You can still register for it. We have over 200 people who are already coming, 250 people or something. So it's fabulous. And just Hag Urim Sameach is sometimes what they'll call it, right? The happy festival of lights. Enjoy your Hanukkah, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
everyone.
Happy Hanukkah.
And Shabbat Shalom.